Okay, so for this psychology assignment, I interviewed several people to find out what they think they know about psychology. And I had a list of questions that I asked them. And one of the questions that I asked everybody was, what is psychology, to see what they know. And most people just said it's how the mind works or the study of the mind, because that's why people lay on a couch and talk to doctors to find out how their mind is working. And not a lot of people really gave me any principles or facts that they knew. Not a lot of people really know any facts. They just said, oh, I don't know, psychology is just how the mind works, so the mind is complicated, or things like that. One said behavior is affected by environment. I knew that one as that was a principle. One of the other common questions that I asked them was, what percent of our brain do we use? And most people said that we don't use more than 50% of our brain. So as I'm sure one person said we only use 25%. I also asked if they think caffeine was good for you, and a lot of people said no, caffeine is super bad for you, because if you drink too much, then it overstimulates your brain and it can cause bad effects. That's why kids can't have caffeine or things like that. So that was kind of interesting to see. A lot of people had the same common stories to do with that. And I also asked about, why does odd behavior tend to increase during the full moon? And because I work at a care center, I decided to ask some of the other aides that I work with and the nurses, because even working at the care center, I sometimes think that people act a little bit differently during a full moon. But when you step back and see, I could kind of, not learning in psychology, but now that I've stepped back and kind of noticed the behaviors, it doesn't really change during a full moon. But a lot of them just said that it had to do with the gravitational pull in your body and on your brain, and that there's a gravitational pull on the electrodes in your brain. So it's kind of interesting to hear. A lot of people think that the full moon changes your behavior. But when I told them it was a myth, I kind of could see some of those, like, the behavior, and they changed a little bit. When I said, did you know that's actually a myth? They said, oh yeah, I really knew that, but I still think that they act differently, or kind of that hindsight bias. Oh, I really knew it was a myth, but stuff like that. So it's interesting. It's interesting to ask people to see what they think, or what they think they know about psychology. It's not a very common subject, but I also the question about, why do opposites attract? Almost every single person said because you have to have differences. If you're the same person, then if you're dating the same person, then it's not going to work out. But if you date someone that's different and the opposites attract, then the opposition will complement each other. And I said, well, that's true, but they also will complement each other at the beginning, but then they slowly start to clash, anything. And a lot of people thought, well, you have to have a lot of difference. If you're marrying the same person, then it probably isn't going to work out, because you're marrying yourself practically. And so it was kind of funny to see how people thought about that. But a lot of people had some interesting stories that weren't very accurate. So it was fun to see what they all said.